You already told us, so it's okay. This is my husband playing.
All right, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
How's everyone doing?
Wonderful.
Who said good creative morning earlier? I heard somebody say that. Who was that?
Might have.
That was you?
Yeah.
I love that. What
You
you
guys
guys
are so creative.
I like it. I've never heard that uttered. You just came up with something, and it makes so much sense. Yeah, good creative morning. I think I might start that way now. I like it. We got a lot of new faces. Raise your hand if this is your first creative mornings. Oh yeah.
Yay!
Nice. Welcome. This is your first creative mornings. You should know this is a very different creative mornings than what we normally do. It's going to be much more interactive, and yeah, we're really looking forward to it. Normally, we have a local speaker speak about a monthly theme. So this month's theme is parallel. So usually that speaker has a bunch of slides, and they stand up here like I'm doing right now, and they talk, and you ask questions, and it's super fun. But now we're going to do something super fun as well, and do a little creative writing workshop. Got a little spiel for you. We got to thank our sponsors, of course. And then we'll get going. So, like I said, March's theme is parallel. It was chosen by the Kuala Lumpur chapter in Malaysia. So, yeah, interesting fact about Creative Mornings. It's not just like a Columbia thing. It's not just some weird thing we started doing. It's part of a global organization. In fact, there's over I think there's 246 now chapters. You can see all these chapters are meeting today. Some at 2 a.m. Central Time, right? I think that's probably Trinidad there. Lisbon, maybe. Every time I do this and I set myself up for failure because I don't look up what any of these acronyms are. Where are we at? Here we are. Here we are. Here right at workshop. Hello. Right above San Francisco. Yeah, exactly. But as you can see, again, everyone's talking about parallel. You see it in a few of the different, I think we have one more slide. Yeah, a lot of meetings today. And you see parallel. So what are we talking about? Like train tracks receding in the distance, our lives eventually hit. I usually read these ahead of time. I have not read this one. Like train tracks receding in the distance, our lives eventually hit the end of the line. Okay. Along the way, along the way, people tend. Yeah. Our tracks are running. Our tracks are going. Along the way, people tend to live parallel lives. Work, school, eat, sleep, rinse and repeat. We exist side by side with strangers, always keeping the same distance of anonymity between us. But unlike those tracks, our paths don't turn in straight. Okay. It's going to be more positive. But unlike those tracks, our paths don't run in straight lines. We can meet someone new at every turn. We may be living parallel lives, but we don't have to go through them alone.
Yay, I love that.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, it came back. So like I said, we got to thank our sponsors. So we have the global sponsor, Adobe. So they sponsor all Creative Morning chapters all over the world. In fact, soon, hopefully, there will be some fun field trips on the Creative Morning website sponsored by Adobe, where you'll be able to use their tools, and I'm sure they'll have super fun speakers and do super creative stuff like we're about to do. So thank you, Adobe. Next up, Serendipity. So if you're familiar with Serendipity downtown, they are the reason we have coffee and donuts today. So thank you to Serendipity. They are starting up market days here soon. This is to kind of take the spot of the Orr Street Farm and Art Market on Sundays. So now it will be in front of Serendipity. Also, our next event is at Serendipity, April 10th. It's actually a happy hour, so just like this event, it's going to be very different from our normal Creative Mornings, but we're super excited to branch out and do different things. But thank you, Elizabeth at Serendipity. Also, she spoke, what was it, February? Was that January or February? Yeah, February. She was she was our January speaker. And that is that recording is online. Highly recommend you all check it out. And of course, the Mont Mini Gallery. Give it up for the Mont Mini Gallery. Yeah. Man, they make it easy for us. They set up all these tables and chairs. Usually we have to come in and do all this stuff, and the volunteer team, they make it so great. And obviously, the art speaks for itself. Definitely check out the website. They do events like all the time. So check them out online, socials, all that good stuff. All right, so we're gonna get going here, but first, I need a volunteer to read the manifesto. We read the Creative Mornings manifesto before we get going to just kind of get us in the mood, get the vibe right. So I need a volunteer to read our manifesto today. Who's willing to do it?
I knew my mom would volunteer.
Everyone is creative. A creative life requires bravery in action, honesty and hard work. We are here to support you, celebrate with you, and encourage you to make the things you love. We believe in the power of community. We believe in giving a damn. We believe in face-to-face connections and learning from others, in hugs and high fives. We bring together people who are driven by passion and purpose, confident that they will inspire one another and inspire change in neighborhoods and cities around the world. Everyone is welcome.
Thank you. All right. It's time, y'all. I'd like to welcome up Anne, and we're going to get going with our creative writing workshop. Anne.
We're gonna do some things. I'm giving you the accumulated years of school supplies left over from my kids and the contents of the office recycling bin. There's a reason for this, and there's a reason for the things we're gonna do writing-wise. I ask you to play along now, and then I'll tell you what the rationale is. And then I'm going to tell you some stuff about myself. Why did I land on this? And what do I do around town? Let's see here. There we go. So, does anybody have a favorite letter of the alphabet?
Q.
Does anybody have a second favorite? M, okay. So if you could set the timer for 90 seconds where we decline. Find a pen that works or a pencil that is sharpened. And pick out some paper. And
You cannot use my phone, no problem.
has everybody got something that works? You got the timer? So on your mark, get set, go. Every word you can think of that starts with the letter M.
Oh, baby.
Mother. Could be a place name, person's name.
5 seconds. 3, 2, 1.
Okay. Guy with writing things. Okay. Now, we're gonna do another list for slightly longer, 3 minutes. This doesn't have to be complete sentences, it doesn't have to be spelled right. I want you to list 10 things. If you have extra time, you can go back and add detail if you want, but the first is to just get these 10 things down. Kitchens, you remember.
Kitchens.
Think of a kitchen. How many kitchens can you remember? Actual kitchens, the kitchens from your childhood, fictional kitchens. Just write down some word that tags it in your mind. Whose kitchen, which kitchen was it that you can remember?
Did you say 10? Oh, so we're supposed to stop.
10.
1 minute left.
So we stop at 10?
You can keep going if you want, or you can add detail to the ones that you've come up with.
Time.
Is that time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This one's a little longer. Will take 6 minutes. One of those kitchens is yelling at you, right?
Is what here?
It's yelling at you. One of those kitchens, when you wrote it down, like you started to feel something, or there was a lot of detail that you had. So go back to that kitchen. Now we get to use sentences. We're gonna spend 6 minutes, and what do you want to tell us about this kitchen? Go ahead and start. exercises from a book called What It Is by a cartoonist named Linda Berry. She's also now teaching at the University of Wisconsin and collaborating with their neuroscience department to say what's happening in our brains when we make stuff. For me personally, this has also involved a book called The War of Art. It's about resistance. Stephen Pressfield's written more than one thing, which I pretty much live the word of resistance, so I've read a lot of his stuff. What we just did, notice how you felt during a lot of those exercises. The letters one in particular, at first it was really easy, right? You could think of a bunch of things, then it started to get hard, then it started to get kind of silly. Like here's like, coffee, let's see. And then you started to kind of push through. Likewise, maybe with the kitchens, there were a couple that were really easy. There were a couple that started to kind of piss you off, maybe. They're good and bad memories. One of the things that a set of exercises like this does is to transition us from whatever we were doing into writing. Writing being linear, verbal, kind of single sense, on the page. And our brains are amorphous, simultaneous, multimedia, multisensory. This is why the book is always different from the movie. The scratch paper and pencils thing is to take the pressure off, to take the preciousness off. You know this isn't going anywhere, right? You can't just text this to somebody now. You can't turn this in, because it's not typed, it's not digital. It's not your one true special notebook that you got for your 16th birthday. It's no stakes. So you don't have to worry about what you're coming up with. This is a draft, clearly, right? Here's one of my kitchens. Here's the title of my talk. I'm an editor, and I was a biochemistry major in college. I thought I was going to go to medical school. Here I am. I have to thank the Creative Mornings people for coming up with the organizing principle for my life. The path, how did I get from being a biochemistry major to being a knitter, a writer, a poet, a editor, seems maybe kind of twisty-turny when you hear about it. To me, it seems kind of logical. All these things contributed to each other. All these things were traveling along in my life at the same time and affect how I approach a lot of these things. So, one of the things I'll point out, I put up there writing, quitting writing, thinking about writing, quitting writing again. All these things that we hear about art, you can't get paid for that. What's your career plan? Everybody does that. You're not good enough. All those messages. I worked at the public library, so I knew how many books got published in a year.
Right.
Was another time that I quit writing, and there was a point where I just said, maybe I should stop quitting. The thing that I should stop is not writing. The thing that I should stop is quitting. And so here I am. This is a Twitter thing that just cracks me up. of how I got into this, back to this, was to be able to kind of, again, step back from the artist. I have to be a certain kind of thing to call myself an artist. And one of the ways I did that was to kind of back off and what is creativity. And this was a book called What a Great Idea by Chick Thompson. It's some kind of business, you know, corporate thing. Keep in mind, I was working at the public library, so big nonprofit and service oriented, so all the business stuff, I was really not on board with it. But Chick Thompson's thing was creativity is just solving problems. Creation literally is you're making something that didn't exist before. So it doesn't have to be this like tremendously fantastical, imaginative, blah blah blah. It just means that you're figuring out a new thing, a new way to do things. You need two things for creativity. You need a lot of stuff to try to put together to make the new thing. And then you need some space. You need the space, the freedom to try these new things, to try them again. First one's not gonna work. Throw out the stuff that didn't work, it's okay.
Yeah.
Live with it, see how it works. Make a mess. Learn from what you did. You don't have to be an expert first time out of the gate. A little more about raw materials. It's not just the stuff. If I'm a potter, I don't just need clay. I need tools. I need space for them to dry. I need some experiences to try different things. I need a context. What am I gonna make? The education comes not just from school, mentors, apprenticeships, YouTube. The freedom to try. You needed a supportive audience, which sometimes means no audience. It means you don't tell anybody because you don't need to worry about selling them on your participation. You need to be willing to be a beginner and not be the expert in the room. For adults, this can be really hard. You need time to be able to do the monkey business. One of the things about this writing exercise we just did is how much did you get written down in 6 minutes? You know, how many ideas got flowing in 3 minutes? So you don't need as much time as you think, but you do need some empty, open time. And then you need to rethink what all these words mean. What does success mean? And I'll go back to writing. We are in this university town. Writing success means publishing in this town. Actually, there's more that you can do with that. Last year, I participated in the first open mic for poetry that I have ever been in 58. And I still have people come up to me and talk about having seen me at that open mic. So that's a kind of success that it never occurred to me that I would seek it out, and that was great. I have a new idea of what it means to do something that succeeds. One of the things that came in real early for me on getting going, all these things that I do, I'm a worker, I'm a parent, I'm this editor helping other people make their writing better. How do I be a beginner? How do I find the time? So I had a writing teacher who said, make a persona for your creative self. And if you've done Artist's Way, she has an exercise where you make a sort of a voodoo doll for your inner critic. And so this is a similar idea, positive angle. I put this line, fake it till you make it. I don't really like that. I feel like if you're doing it, it's not fake. So, so you kind of create this persona thing is you create a character that's gonna be your artist person. And one of the deals is just to be, what do you get out of this? But another is that maybe you get some physical tags to help you transition from one thing to another. Particularly with writing, I have an office job, so here I am at my desk all day typing, and now, okay, I'm gonna write my great novel, so here I am at my desk typing. You know, how does my brain know that now I'm doing the fun thing, or now I'm doing the thing that I'm inexpert at? Well, I have a persona named Yolanda, who is my artistic person. And this is the one who's gonna let it fly, and who's gonna say anything, and who's gonna write, you know, the romantic novel. This is actually I knocked over the shelf where I keep my makeup, and instead of just putting it away, I decided to try it on. I have a persona for the housekeeper too. Me being me, I also had to have a persona that was the learner. So Youmans of the Yukon is intrepid and is ready to go into the new spaces and see what happens and, you know, fight the bear. These personas give you some physical objects maybe to set the stage, just like the scratch paper and the dumb pencils. I can get out Yolanda's costume jewelry and swishy music and know that now I'm in create space. And I can shovel my driveway and feel like I'm getting intrepid instead of, you know, I'm not writing my novel. Accidentally, I created a digital persona. When I went online, I thought I'll use a pen name. That was a whole. I started out writing romance novels, and that's a very accepted strategy, marketing-wise, to have a pen name. And you could get a Facebook account for free, so I thought I can test this out. And I started getting all this spam from casinos. It took me months. But again, you know, here was a space that I could be something else and interact in other ways than just what my kind of competent work self is. I lately have the angry girl persona. I've been writing a lot of poems about witches lately. This turns out there's now a psychological theory called internal family systems. The book is No Bad Parts by Richard Schwartz. And he says we have all these parts within ourselves, and how we deal with this is to let them be in conversation with each other instead of trying to suppress one, or, you know, I'm not selfish. I have a part that wants things, and I'm not incompetent. I have a part that's a beginner, and let them. So this all turns out to be more broadly applicable than just, why can't I find time to write my novel? I was a writer, not a visual person. You have maybe heard of mood boards or vision boards. I was late to figure out about this. And this again, broadly applicable. You can make the mood board about your 5-year plan, but you can also make a mood board about a particular project. So if you're working on it 10 minutes a day, you've got something to go back to and get into the mindset. You've got a physical, tangible object that is helping you transition. Okay, here's what it is. You can use this mood board, this collage to kind of remind yourself what's the goal, what are the, this is one that I made for kind of general artist life for me. Another thing is to create your space, that's your zone. Here again, what's the physical, tangible clue that now I'm moving into this, not the other. This is, my old house had a finished attic, and this is a dormer window that was a literally sort of 4 feet by 6 feet space, so I decorated it all up to be my kind of Youmans of the Yukon zone to read about craft and write stuff. And then this is somebody, she's like, get a tray and create your magic circle. So get your set of objects that you're just gonna lay out. You don't need a whole room, you don't need a studio, you just need a placemat. And then put your objects around you that are your creative sparks and set that up for when it's time to shift from I'm doing my taxes on the kitchen table to I'm doing my poetry on the kitchen table. And then all this work that you're doing, cut yourself some slack. There's a lot of science around why this is hard for us. And we have a lot of kind of puritanical cultural speeches that basically have no scientific support. So one issue is fear. Is a survival mechanism. You know, if we're hunters and gatherers, we need to stay with the tribe to survive. So when you go do something different, you're cutting yourself off from all your support. So your inner lizard brain is telling you, no, 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 no. Do what they tell you to do. Another thing to ask yourself when you're feeling the resistance is, what really are you feeling? You know, your initial response is this flood of fear, but there's no saber-toothed tiger here. So what really are you feeling? What really is going on when you're having this sensation? Maybe it's just change. You don't want to do something different. Maybe it's uncertainty. You don't know how this is going to turn out. So, we get a lot of reward for being able to predict the outcome. And so, can you let yourself not know what the outcome is going to be and do it anyway? So, then there's just physiologically, our brains are an organ, and so biological things have an effect on our brain too. If you're not getting enough sleep, if you're not getting enough food, if you're not getting any exercise, your brain isn't gonna work as well as it could be. So those things, and again with the talismans on the persona side and the physical space, this seems kind of woo-woo and dopey, but we're just bodies. And then I'll get on the psychological side, more philosophical side. Anybody's advice to you about process, about quality, about goals, I would say to you, if it's not generative, it's not good. Mm-hmm. So by generative, I mean that afterwards you feel like making more stuff. It is the advice, the critique, the process. If this process stops you, it's not a good process for you. And this again is about brains. We know there are a lot of different ways that different brains work. Some brains need reward, some brains need boundaries, some brains need complete freedom and space. So you have to find the thing that works for you. Side note, you have to stick with, because we also don't like change, you have to stick with it long enough to see, am I just getting stopped because of doing something different, or am I getting stopped because this isn't working. Is anybody here an athlete? You know that it's hard work, it's tiring. I don't wanna go to the gym today. When is it because you're not in shape yet, and when is it because you hurt something? So, all this advice stuff, when is it because you need to work more, and when is it because this really is not a good idea? And then again, define all these things. What is good? You know, if I had to say, what is success? And lastly, perfection doesn't exist in nature. So when part of your what is good, it's not gonna be perfect, whatever it is, it's not gonna be perfect. In ice, some of those molecules are not below 32 degrees. Some of those molecules are floating around like water. I wrote a poem about being a beginner. Do you want me to read the poem?
Yes, please.
Patience for my inexperience. This is a metaphor. I hold the baby's hand while he climbs the steps. 1 foot, 1 step, the other foot. He only looks at the current step. I keep looking up to the door, which we'll reach someday. The baby climbs another step, picks up a leaf. 1 step, another step, still steady. I am the one impatient with growing muscles, wanting to arrive now without the journey. I hold the baby's hand, climb another step. Sat through all that, so get it done.
And is that published anywhere?
No, I'm putting together a chapbook, and it's gonna be in the chapbook,
Thank you.
which will be at Unbound, available soon, covered by Gage. I get some inspiration from around town. I used to live in East Campus. This says, there's all these wires, it says, beware of dinosaur. This is my second favorite mug, because it has the words prance and vigor on it. I took a class at the Columbia Art League that was about, is it called linotype block printing? So you have to kind of think backwards to do this. It was, I'll probably never do it again, there's a lot of equipment involved, but it was such a mind bender, so it really kind of broke open how you think of colors and spaces and things like that, so, you know, who knows what that's doing in my brain to have done that. My family, we go on a lot of trips and do a lot of interesting things together. To follow them around, what they're interested in, I've gotten to see a lot of different things it wouldn't have occurred to me to check out. And I just, this bunch of bandits, we were not killing each other during the pandemic. These are some things I'm doing around town. At work, we make the bags for a pet food company, and you have to, if you have a 40-pound bag of dog food, they print that out on a big sheet of paper and then fold it and cut it, and so somebody at some point has to know how to spell calcium panthothene. That's, I'm checking that out. I've been learning to draw and paint. One of the things that gets for me is to learn what constitutes a warm-up in another venue. So, you know, jogging, we do some stretches, and writing, we do this, how many words can you think of that start with M? Drawing, we make a little Simon always writing words, things, drawing is really low stakes. You know, I'm not trying to do that for money. Everybody's just surprised that I can draw anything at all, rather than, why doesn't that look like a bee? And that ended up, I drew enough stuff that I had an art show. So, spinning, I'm a knitter, and I started getting interested in just yarn and always taking apart yarn, and then decided, well, I'll rebuild yarn. These are a bunch of kind of spindles, and this is a spinning wheel that I built out of salvage lumber from some plans I got on the internet. This is fleece getting ready to spin, which has turned into this. And I got interested in sheep. Buy a sheep, somebody please take it away. I went to a sheep shearing class. There's the sheep, there's fresh off the sheep. Notice the straw. That's the first wash. Notice the mud. This is after about 4 rinses. Sheep don't groom themselves the way dogs do, so it turns out the fleece is really, really dirty. I write things, I'm sending things out to be published, even though open mics are fun, and my science brain, I make a spreadsheet for myself to keep track of what is where and whether it's been accepted or not. I wrote a song during the pandemic. And then why I'm here this month instead of some other month, you may have heard City of Refuge in town. They help refugees, immigrants get settled into our community. And guess what? Their federal funding is being cut. So we do a fundraiser in April for National Poetry Month that is write 30 poems in April. If you sign up for this, you can just chip in some money, or you can recruit friends to sponsor you as you write throughout the month of April. And then I will send you a prompt every day in April email, and a poem. If you're interested in learning more about poetry, if you're interested in just writing every day, to sign up for one of these kinds of 30-day of anything challenges, it's a similar trajectory. The first few days, you're all hyped up, it's exciting, it's real energetic, you keep going, and then it starts to get hard. Then it starts to get, okay, maybe I'm finding a rhythm to this, and then it's like, I've got something else to say here, I can't wait till I come back tomorrow. So it's a real interesting thing to do, whatever your interest is, to try this 30-day. It's a short amount of time sort of to commit to, and then at the end you can say, how did that go? What do I want to keep? What do I want to do differently? So, City of Refuge, Columbia.org, Poems-a-thon. Please sign up and I'll send you mail in April. We will tell you about open mic events that you too can become famous. Books I have read, websites I have gone to that I find extremely helpful, and this is hard to read and it's going to be online somewhere. I will send you the slide deck, anybody who wants it. I'll call out a couple of things. The book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert of Eat, Pray, Love fame is very good about kind of letting yourself do it. What it is, I mentioned. There's a Creative Mornings person. She presents, she's from Dallas. So So you can find her stuff on the Creative Mornings website, which is Jill Allison Ryan. And her thing that I really jumped on is little steps. So this whole novel, no, write for 10 minutes. Write for another 10 minutes. And you start to get in the habit. You start to feel good about doing this instead of it being a chore. And that's my talk. Okay. Questions or?
Thank you, because I didn't understand. I have approximately, probably 12 items about the kitchen that could be a short story, a poem, or a book, or fiction. So I appreciate you showing me that process, that creative process.
Yeah.
Most of my education has been how to take care of sick people. And there's a creative process with that too. You have to be able to figure out what fits. But thank you for this, I appreciate it.
Yeah, just starting with something physical and working out. A lot of creative writing classes will be, start with characters, start with plots, start with the inciting incident. And no, I had this old suitcase that my grandmother gave me that my son carried around with my son every evening. That's really where it started. That's really what I'm having all this emotional reaction to. And so being able to start on an online page and then branch out instead of starting here, I don't know why, because I'm an editor, so I'm in favor of revision.
We do have a few minutes for questions. If anyone has any questions for Anne.
And did you say that you would have this posted somewhere where we can go back and look at it?
Yeah, we'll have it posted on the Creative Mornings website, a recording of the talk, and then we'll also post the slides as well.
Okay, that's good. Where did you do your open mic?
It was for the lit crawl of Unbound
Okay.
at Hit Street Records.
Okay.
And then the Toasty Goat had one the following June, so I did this open mic and everybody's like, oh, so can you tell me more about open mics? Oh, ask around, because
Columbia Writers Guild has an open mic the fourth Thursday of the month, and it starts at 6 at Cafe Berlin, if
Okay.
you're interested.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
You seem to share a lot of, aside from writing, a lot of other creative outlets like knitting and painting and drawing and so on. I guess my question is, why did you share that at a writer's workshop? And is there some, yes, I'll just stop.
So part of it is just that this is me.
Yeah.
That the underlying through line is I want to know how everything works. So I'm indiscriminate about getting involved in stuff because then I get to find out how it works. One of my realizations has been that one of the problems for writing is what am I going to write about? And if all I'm doing is reading craft books and sitting in my study pounding my head against the paper, I don't have anything to write about. Or people joke about the New Yorker short story is about people in their English department getting engulfed by departmental politics, and I don't wanna write about that. So to do all these other things partly gives me something to write about, partly gives my brain different kind of exercise. Partly it takes the pressure off. It's a way to relax for me because my thing is writing. Like I say, if I paint badly, that's fine, that's something different to do, and then I can go back. When it turns out a lot of these things give my brain some space to be mulling over knitting, there's a lot of really repetitive phases of knitting, so you have a lot of time to think while you're knitting.
I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed the parallel of everything, and I can relate to so much of what you were saying. I enjoy writing just for myself. I keep journals, and I write all the time, notes, everything. But I am a jeweler, and everything that you said about your writing, I can relate to because I push it aside. It's one of my favorite things to do, and I love all forms of art, but that is my favorite, and I push it aside all the time. And what you said today really solidified a lot of things for me, and it really inspired me to get back to my bench and get away from what I've been doing and what I've been going with it and the second guessing and really dive into it again, so thank you.
Yeah. I'll tell a story quickly. There was an article in the New Yorker probably 20 years ago about two skiers at that time, downhill skiers. There was a guy named Herman Meyer, who's Austrian, and Bodie Miller, who's American. So the Austrian ski team, like Austria sort of skiing is combination World Series, Super Bowl. They have huge funding for the ski team. When Herman Meyer trains, they hook him up to a treadmill and measure his lactic acid output every minute to make sure that the training is the most efficient it can possibly be. And he's got ski instructors around him and sports physiologists around him all the time training him. Bodie Miller wouldn't train with the US team when they were getting ready for some set of races. Instead of living in the dorms, he rented a room in the barn of a French farmer. Instead of going to strength training classes, he went to circus school and learned how to walk on a tightrope. So instead of strength training, he's schlepping hay bales at this farm. Instead of ski practice, he's learning balance on a tightrope. He's doing similar things, but he got to go to circus school. So, Bodie Miller is fitting my, what are the overlap, and again, what's the definition of training? I need to improve my quads, so how can I do that? I need to increase my vocabulary, how can I do that? I need to read more. Well, I can listen to audiobooks while I knit.
Just in the theme of parallel, we live in an age and a time where innovation and technology, data, generative AI, all that is consuming our lives, but on the other hand, we are humans, and there's this thing like emotion and logic and common sense. And I asked somebody yesterday at a talk about, like, at what point does this innovation technology take over, or does it? Because, it's like, if you get data that jumping out of an airplane without a parachute is 1,000 times more thrilling, your common sense says, don't freaking do that. So it's interesting about singularity, or when we get there, or if we ever get there. And I don't know exactly what my question is, but other than, do you have a thought on the human side? Does that ever go away and get compromised by the digital age that we live in?
I think, again, one way to keep track of that is definitions. know, when you call it social media, what does social mean to you? It's, cause for a lot of people, it has turned into performance media. So, and I have my current job because of Twitter. I mean, that's a fairly straight line. And so I'm not gonna diss on social media too hard, but also, like, is it really social for you? And that would be, are you just gonna jump out of the plane because you want footage?
Yeah.
Or,
I feel like when you did you're doing all these things, right? Like you're journeying out, you're allowing yourself, you're giving yourself a space. So writing, all of these things are creative outlets. And what's coming to me on AI and all these other things, is it gonna, you are asking if it's gonna like take over the human aspect of it? It feels like what came to me is that it's if we let it do that.
Yeah.
Right? And so when we are all creating, because we're all creators, this whole universe is all about creativity at its core, right? Everything is created. And so we are creations and we are creating, no matter what we're doing. And so if we allow these things to take over and we don't do like things that you're showing us and as examples, is like, I'm gonna go try some paint. I'm gonna go do that, we have to do that. We have to expand ourselves out into this creative space while also doing what we have to do until society gets to a point where we realize that creativity is very important and it needs to be at the same level as, well, the importance we put other things. So we need to like really push ourselves to be creative, right?
well, and this thing about innovation too, when you're going to all these sort of, what do they call them, the business developers, incubators and so forth, that, they want creativity, so why did art get the rap that it
Yeah.
got? Why don't we spend, I don't know, it's a thing, I used to work as an editor in books, and one fellow said, just very plainly, I thought I was done with this. I turned in my manuscript and I thought we were all finished. And it's like, yeah, no, we got copy editing and proofreading and, now the book tour. We don't, the kind of process part of it, we don't quite acknowledge or value in the way, and then just what burbles forth as we do this.
Yes.
You wrote about a kitchen, but really you were writing about your grandmother whose kitchen that
How
was.
did you know?
I mean, it's like, you started off with one thing, but, here's all this stuff that it opened up with. So you sit down at the business meeting or the brainstorming session and they wanna keep it on this
Yes.
little thing. It's like, wait a minute, but my mother said, but I remember when. And eventually you're gonna get back to the 14-point marketing plan, but,
Yeah, and it's also valuing the creativity of every single person,
right.
right? And making sure those spaces are diverse, making sure those spaces are for everyone, so that everyone can give their ideas from their life experience that might be different than ours, I mean,
Right.
and the more we do that, the better it's gonna be, right? So.
I have the advantage of 7.5 decades. I don't know if I exceed anybody else's age here, and you don't have to admit it if I do. But I'm concerned about people, not necessarily this lady's age here, right? But people younger than her, and I have a concern that you all brought up, that it's not valued, that creativity piece is not valued as much as it has been in the past. in my observation. And so I think it's very important that young parents now today, or young people, no matter whether you're a parent or not, think about the people who are younger than them and encourage that creativity, because society is not necessarily pushing for that. Maybe business is now, but society isn't pushing for that. And you have to have society value it along with just the dollar.
Can you give an
Okay.
example of the past, what you believe has
Huh?
been, can you give an example of your experience in the past where it's been that?
Where it's been encouraged?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, 4-H.
4-H.
And you,
Okay.
if you're not rural, you don't know what I'm talking about.
No, yeah.
But in 4-H, and then when, in the schools, we were encouraged to have a humanity in the schools.
Mhm.
That was a part of our requirements, and it was a part of the things that made us think outside the box. And that, in the old days, that's what we called it. We called it thinking outside the box. Well, I think, there were a lot of things in society that helped me do that, think outside the box. And I don't think there's as much, I think the box is in, here's the box now,
Well, and standardized testing is another one,
Yeah,
because it's, how do you score the essay? You know, if you, it's real easy to write a test that's fill in the bubbles and here are the right answers to things, and then, oh, your English faculty is all in on, or you need an essay about what does Romeo and Juliet mean to you, but how do you score it? Which one gets an A, which one gets a B? Well, now we have this checklist of things they had to include in the essay. You can't, it's the uncertainty again. You can't start something and not know what the outcome is. So how many craft things have you gone to where they've got the step-by-step and we're all gonna end up with this crate with flowers painted on it at the end of it and say, here's a pile of wood, what are you gonna do? So this, I'm gonna go into this, and I don't know if I'm gonna be any good at it or not, but I'm gonna do it anyway and see what happens. And this is a broadly applicable skill. You know, this is why travel is stressful. I don't know if I'm gonna make my plane. I don't know what restaurant is gonna be there. It's why children are stressful. I don't know if he's gonna get up in time to make the bus. I don't know if he's gonna fail geometry and we have to cancel our summer vacation. So if you can train yourself to be okay with that, you can deal with these things in life. You can deal with whatever your artistic project is. I ran out of green paint when I was painting my landscape. Now what am I gonna do? But then, like I say, we wanna have the fill in the dots test that the computer can read and tell us that it was all correct.
nobody told us how to get on a covered wagon and come west. And most of us wouldn't be here if somebody hadn't done that. Okay, and my theory is, at my seven and a half decades, is that we've lost the pioneer spirit. And so, see if you can help your kids in the future get that.
You know, on a positive note, I would say that access to creativity because of technology has expanded infinitely.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, people being able to get on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and all those things, and it becomes a balance, right? So it's balancing for your children. Like if you're gonna look at all these things, it's also doing them in real life.
Right.
I mean, like,
At some
not
point, you
just
gotta
being
quit
on the
taking
phone,
workshops
yeah.
and do the
And
thing.
do it, but not
Yeah.
just letting them be on the phone all the time, but
Yeah.
so much creativity. I mean, the expansion and the availability to a wider amount of people. I mean, it's, you know, I'm doing pottery right now, like looking on YouTube and trying to figure out how to make something, and then you get there and you say, okay, I'm gonna make this, and it doesn't turn out to be what I was supposed to make it, but it turned out to be something else that was awesome, or it didn't turn out to be anything, and
Yeah.
I'm throwing the, you know, and that's what it's all about. That's the creative process.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about perfection, like you said, which is a very certain cultures, like perfectionism is.
Right.
Yeah. So we
Well,
have to get away
yeah,
from
again,
that.
why are you doing it? What's the result? What does good mean to you? And I don't wanna act like I had some Zen attitude, this is why I got there, this is like the perfect Instagrammable Christmas. What I want mine to look like was, I can't afford this.
Right.
It wasn't some kind of like, oh, I wanna create this, I can't, I
Right.
just can't afford this. So what really do I need to supply? What can I do myself? What can we make ourselves? And then it was like, oh, hey, I could ask this about a lot of stuff. What does relaxation mean to me? Am I gonna feel more relaxed after 2 hours at the hair salon or 2 hours in the pottery studio? And of course, sometimes the answer is gonna be different.
Or 2 hours to get to the airport to go somewhere and go back.
Yeah.
It stretches you out more and you have to come back and rest.
Right. So that's, I don't know, is that creative or skeptical? You're starting with that you have to define everything and ask questions about it. I guess that's part of the freedom part. You have to be free or willing to say, I'm not gonna do it that way. Or I'm gonna ask you why I'm gonna do it that way. Is that gonna be okay with you if I don't just go along with this? I said to my nieces once, let's have a spa night. And one niece was like, oh, okay, I'm up for adventure. And one niece was kind of like, what? And the third niece was like, what do you mean by spa night? Raising it right.
All right, let's give it up for Hannah.